Have you ever wondered how to communicate with an alienated child when you have no physical contact? Is it possible to evoke their inner child through written word, like in texts or emails? Today we're exploring what makes a difference when communicating with a child who's been manipulated to reject you. What to say, what not to say, how to say it. Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Maddie, and welcome back to the Anti-Alienation project. Here on this little corner of the internet, I talk about a certain type of child psychological abuse that I went through for 20 years, often called parental alienation. The long story short is that when my parents were getting a divorce, my mom manipulated me to reject my dad. We had a healthy, loving, close bond that she destroyed. I rejected my dad for 20 years and figured out the truth that I had believed lies, false allegation, horror stories for 20 years. Now I speak out about this topic, hoping to educate and inform the public as well as wake up other kids who are living a lie. But first, a word from our sponsor, Ballers Unlimited Pickleball Lessons. Do you love to play pickleball? Imagine getting personalized expert coaching without ever leaving your home court. With Ballers Unlimited, you can do exactly that. Here's how it works. Record a quick video of yourself playing a drill or a match. It can be with a friend, partner, whoever you usually play with. Then upload the video to Bounce website. Once analyzed, you will receive a comprehensive video breakdown filled with clear, actionable feedback. No more guessing what you're doing wrong. Just a direct path to improving your game and winning more matches. Scan the QR code in this video and book your first video analysis lesson today. Thank you to our sponsor. First, we need to start off with what you need to do and where you need to be in your mindset before even sending that message. Before you send that message, check yourself, check your motives. When you check your motives, you want to ask yourself whether you're sending this message, sending this text in order to get a response back or to simply express your unconditional love for your child. Are you sending the text or email expecting something in return, whether it's a reply, whether it's to get them to go to see you, whether it's to have them soften to your presence? If you're sending them a message and expecting something back, this almost always is going to lead to disappointment. I heard a quote back when I was in high school and it's stuck with me since. Expectations lead to disappointment, especially in the case of an alienated child when they're often cold, rejecting, arrogant, even mean. You're mostly going to get a response that will let you down. So to have any type of expectation is probably going to lead to disappointment. Now, I know it's difficult to get rid of your expectations. It's your child. You want them to respond in a loving way. You want to get through to them naturally. But the painful truth is this. Unless you send your message to your child from a place of true unconditional love, not expecting anything in return, then you're at risk of being disappointed or hurt every time. Secondly, it's really important to root yourself in confidence. Root yourself, ground yourself in knowing that you are their parent. You still know your child. The pathological parent wants you to come to believe that you don't know your child anymore. And you might start to believe that because they probably seem like a shell of themselves. They probably seem like angry, afraid of you, haughty, arrogant. They probably don't resemble the child you once knew. And your ex-partner wants you to be walking on eggshells around your child. The pathological parent wants you to feel insecure and inferior. They want you to give up on communicating with your child. This is where meditation and mindfulness can play a really helpful role. It might help to root yourself in past times, happy memories. Imagine those moments with your child before they started rejecting you. And hold steady with the truth that child is still there. Remember your child's true nature, their unique personality, their laugh, their smile, and the special moments that you shared. That child is still in there, even if they're buried deep. And if you approach the situation with communicating with your child in a way that you're anxious and you are walking on eggshells, your child will pick up on that and it will lead to less success. So check yourself in your motive, root yourself in confidence, knowing that your child is your child and you are their parent. The third thing is to regulate yourself. Check your own emotional state. Make sure that you're coming from a calm, grounded, peaceful, loving manner. If you're having any intense emotions, fear, anger, shame, guilt, sadness, whatever it is, let those emotions subside before sending that message. If you're feeling any intense emotions whatsoever, I recommend putting the phone down, stepping away from the computer, and finding another time to craft that message. Now is not the time to engage. When you're coming from that more emotional, primitive state, it will impede your ability to communicate effectively. Whether it's mindfulness exercises, journaling, prayer, meditation, however you calm yourself down, make sure that you do that. Calm your own nervous system down before communicating with your child. Release your sense of urgency. Reconnection, especially in this family dynamic, requires time, requires patience. It's not all going to happen at once. You're not going to reconnect in one text message, in one email. The important point is that you need to show up as the regulated adult who can handle their own emotions. I did a lot of research for this video, and I came across another expert, Dorcy Pruter, who has some excellent information on how to communicate with your alienated child. She really breaks it down into 5 points, 5 important things to do while communicating with your alienated child. So I'm going to play some of those clips, and then after each clip, I will break it down a little bit further. And I encourage you to go watch her full video. It's How to Communicate with Your Alienated Child, Dorcy Pruter TV.
Building parental empathy is an essential component when it comes to reconnecting with alienated children. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of your child. So in the context of parental alienation, it involves being able to put ourselves in the shoes of our children and truly comprehend their emotional experience. And when we develop empathy, as parents, we can foster a safe and secure environment for our children, allowing the rebuilding of the parent-child relationship. That is the only relationship you're responsible for, this relationship with your beloved child. And empathy is the number one strategy you as an alienated parent can implement right now to start reuniting with your alienated children and establish consistent, positive communication. And it can be done firstly by understanding their emotions and expressing your own in a respectful, non-confrontational manner. And it's important to show empathy, patience, and persistence, even in the face of rejection. So you've got to regularly reach out to them with messages of unconditional love and support without any expectation or pressure for them to respond to you.
Empathy for your child, first and foremost, is so important. Anything that your child says to you that is angry, that is mean, that is spiteful, ungrateful, you can reframe it as your ex speaking through your child. And I know this is difficult to do. It's difficult to not take it personally. However, I'm here to tell you that empathy for your child will make the difference. Your child is being psychologically abused. There's no easy way or pretty way to put that. Anytime that you're communicating with your child, please keep in mind they're being psychologically abused. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors. It's probably worse than you could imagine. And if you can just remain compassionate, remain empathetic, your child will pick up on that and they will appreciate that even if they don't express their appreciation. She mentions the mirror neurons, and if you're sending them a steady stream of positivity and those mirror neurons are working, they will pick up on that positivity and it will shift the energy between you two, even if it is nonverbal communication. I'm including a clip about mirror neurons because I think it's important to understand how your behavior and your actions will affect your child.
The name mirror neuron comes from the fact that they fire both when you do something and when you watch someone doing something, even if you don't move a muscle. Basically, it's as if they mirror the neural activity of the person actually doing the thing. Well, when you think about it, if a part of your brain activates the same way when you're observing an action as when you're performing it, then it isn't that far of a stretch to think that these mirror neurons could be involved in feeling part of what someone else is feeling simply by seeing them express an emotion.
Dorcy talks a lot about active listening, and she breaks it down into 3 points: undivided attention, eye contact, and nonverbal communication.
Empathetic listening is simple. It's active listening. Truly hearing what the other person, your child, has to say without interrupting or getting defensive. Now, this skill will help you build trust between you and your child again. So active listening does not mean you have to agree with everything that your child is saying. It just means you hear and understand what your child is saying. So active listening is a crucial skill that allows you to really fully understand and empathize with the perspective and experience of the alienated child. And then the fourth ingredient is validation. Validation means acknowledging their feelings, even if you don't agree with them fully. As you validate or acknowledge their emotions, they will feel heard and understood, which can lead to a more positive relationship between you and your child. Now, don't misunderstand me here. This does not mean apologize for things you have not done.
In the context of nonverbal communication, it's really important to still demonstrate active listening when communicating with your child. So with active listening, you may think that's not applicable to talking with your alienated child when you have no face-to-face contact, but I think it is. So anytime your child tells you any bit of information, you want them to know that you're actively listening, you're paying attention, they're important, and what they're telling you matters. Respond to any bits of information they give you in a positive manner. One point that Dorcy mentions here on active listening is undivided attention. If you have the opportunity to talk to your child on the phone, or if you have the opportunity to email or text your child, make sure they have your full undivided attention, even if you can't give them that eye contact or give them that nonverbal communication. You can still give them your undivided attention when communicating with written word. Things that might fall under this category would be responding in a timely manner. You don't have to respond right that second, but respond within 10 to 20 minutes is a good thing. Dorcy talks about validation. So you can validate how they're feeling without validating any false accusations or any lies they're repeating. You can acknowledge the hurt and the sadness and the pain they're experiencing. You can tell them you wish things were different. You can tell them that you wish they were not in this pain. Don't make it about you or your emotions. This will only lead your child to feel guilt, to feel shame, to feel a lot of pressure. Make it about their emotions and validating whatever they're feeling. Fifth, Dorcy also is a big proponent of consistency, and I am too.
You have to keep showing up, even if things are tough, even if they're being rude and disrespectful, even if they demand that you don't show up, because over time, when you do show up, this builds trust and it leads the child back into a healthy relationship. It builds your parental authority. It informs the child without saying it to them that you love them no matter what. No matter how they're showing up, no matter what they're saying, that your love is unconditional, that you're present for them, and that you're the parent, and you can rise above.
Be consistent with showing your unconditional love to your child, even if they don't respond. As long as you don't have a protective order in place, please be consistent with your messaging. Any inconsistency that your child will pick up on is going to push you further away. To bring that child back to you requires consistent, unconditional love, consistent messaging that is filled with nothing but unconditional love. No expectations, no pressure, no guilt, just love. We talked a lot about things that are good to do when communicating with your alienated child, but I think it's important to cover a few things that you want to avoid. So, tone, very important. Even in written communication, do not yell at your child. Do not make them feel guilty. Do not focus on your emotions and how they're impacting you. They already are experiencing enough pain and enough grief as it is, and it's only going to push them further away if you express, I miss you so much, I'm so sad I haven't seen you. That is not a good message to send to your child. Furthermore, do not apologize for things you haven't done. This is just going to reinforce the delusion they're living in. It's going to actually enforce the alienation. At the same time, and I know this might be frustrating for people to hear, but don't defend yourself. It's not going to get you anywhere. The child, if they're living in this fixed delusional reality, they're not going to hear you when you defend yourself. It's just going to inflame the alienation. It's just going to make them angry. So don't apologize for things you haven't done and don't defend yourself. Keep it calm, peaceful, and positive, sending that message of empathy and unconditional love. We're going to get into specific examples of what this looks like when you're communicating, but first I want to talk about the inner child. So the concept of the inner child originated with Carl Jung. And it's the psychological concept that refers to the childlike part of your personality deep within every soul. The part that holds your earliest memories, your earliest emotional responses. Your inner child represents a sense of wonder, playfulness, and creativity of childhood. It also represents the vulnerability of childhood. The inner child encompasses the parts of you that were hurt, that were neglected. Your inner child represents your needs for love and safety that haven't fully been met yet. Why does the inner child matter in this context? First, your inner child often determines and drives your emotional triggers, even as an older child, a teenager, or an adult. Emotional triggers like feeling unworthy, feeling rejected, feeling not good enough. Second, your inner child often drives your patterns in your relationships, like approval seeking, people pleasing, conflict avoidance, or even feeling abandoned. And finally, your inner child can drive you as an older person or an adult to sabotage things in your life, like the inability to let yourself feel joy or excitement, or feeling guilt around resting, guilt around letting yourself be happy. How can targeted parents send messages non-verbally that will evoke the inner child within their alienated child? If you're a parent who's cut off from a child unjustifiably, you're probably familiar with their cold-hearted exterior, their protective part. Yes, this cold-hearted, angry exterior of the alienated child is there for a reason. It's there to protect them. What you might not realize is that protective part is there to simply guard their inner child who still wants unconditional love, who still wants safety, who still wants connection with you. Deep within that inner child, they're feeling ashamed, they're feeling confused, they're feeling hurt. They're most likely afraid of you hurting them, afraid of betrayal. They're trapped in a loyalty conflict where they cannot win. And if you're wanting to evoke that inner child beneath the protective layer of the cold-hearted exterior, you need to be very, very deliberate with your tone and your words when speaking to them. And yes, tone does come through even in written word. As you can probably imagine, really needs to be warm, inviting, empathetic, compassionate, validating, consistent. And with your words, it's important to respect their individuality. As I already said, express unconditional love. Do not apply pressure. Do not guilt your child. Do not argue about the alienation, your therapist, or the other parent. Do not bring up the past. And be careful not to overwhelm them. Now, if you make mistakes when communicating with your child, or if you've done some of these things in the past while communicating with your child, that's okay. We are all human. Mistakes are a part of life, and we can learn from them. So don't beat yourself up too hard. And if you continue to make mistakes as you're trying to navigate these waters, please be gentle with yourself and just learn from your mistake. This is a very difficult, tricky situation. So having empathy for yourself as well is important. Finally, that inner child beneath the cold-hearted exterior is not going to respond to logic. That's why there's no sense in defending yourself. That's why there's no sense in explaining what's actually going on in the situation. On the flip side, that's also why your gentle, warm, inviting tone really matters. And that's why consistency also really matters. Now, the part you've possibly been waiting for, real life examples. So here are some things that I think speak to the inner child, messages that you can send if you need ideas. And of course, you can tailor these messages. Here are some examples. You deserve to feel loved just for being you. I'm so proud to be your mom or dad. I loved your smile when you were little, and I still love it now. You are and always have been enough. Those are messages that you can tailor a little bit that will speak to your child in a calm, peaceful, loving manner. Practical email or texting examples. It's very common for alienated kids to lash out. Very common for them to say things like, I hate you. I wish you were not my parent. I wish you were dead. I wish you didn't exist. Leave me alone. All of that might really hurt. If I were going through it, it would certainly hurt me. But please remember, these are messages that are actually being funneled through your pathological ex to hurt you, because they know to hurt you the most is to weaponize your child. So please, if you hear these messages, tell yourself, okay, they're suffering. Okay, they're under the mind control of their other parent. I promise you they don't actually mean that. They might think they mean that, but it's because they're living in a delusion. So that's the first thing to remember, which goes back to the beginning of the video, which is to remain grounded. If you are triggered and respond emotionally to any messages where your child's lashing out with hate or even profanity, it's going to inflame the situation. When they lash out with hatred or profanity, because they most certainly will, please emotionally regulate yourself before responding. Very important. Here's an example. They say, I hate you and I never want to see you again. How should you respond? You can respond however you'd like. If you want to respond in a way that brings your child closer instead of push them away, I would respond in a way that acknowledges their emotion, avoid engaging with the accusations, and you need to model that calm presence to them with the mirroring neurons that Dorcy was talking about. So, I hate you. I never want to see you again. You could respond with something like, I'm so sorry you're feeling this way. I can see that you're really hurting, and I wish I could take that pain away. I will love you no matter what. Another situation, if they threaten you or blackmail you. You might think this is a drastic situation, but I actually see it come up quite often. They might say, if you do this, I'm never talking to you again. If you continue to text me, I'm going to block you. If you don't do this thing I want you to do, I'll ruin your life, whatever it may be. They will possibly threaten or blackmail you, which is really difficult to manage. So an example is, I found this information out about you and it will ruin your life. If the child says something like that, or they're threatening you, a simple thing that you could respond with is, it sounds like you're feeling really scared and upset right now, validating their emotion. I hear you and I'm here if you would like to discuss what's really hurting you. Modeling calm presence. Another very common scenario is when a child will repeat false allegations, usually of abuse, usually of neglect. Sadly enough, this is very common. The child obviously has been made to believe stories and allegations about you that might be exaggerated or might be completely unfounded. And this is such a difficult path to navigate because, of course, you want to stick up for yourself. Of course, you want your child to know the truth. But because they're living in that highly controlled cult-like mentality, they will not be responsive to you defending yourself. The inner child is not going to respond to logic. So, if they send you a message that is repeating a false allegation, like you sexually assaulted me, you are a psycho, or I'm never going with you again, you abused mom, you still want to validate their emotions, avoid engaging with the accusation, and model a calm, loving, gentle presence. How do you do that? Here's an example. Child says, you sexually assaulted me, you are a psycho. You could respond with, I can hear that you're in a lot of pain and it really saddens me that you feel this way. I know it might be hard to believe, but I really love you and I'm here if you ever want to talk. A different version of that you could respond with would be, I'm so sorry for the pain you're carrying. I will always love you and I hope that one day we can talk openly without fear. Why do these messages work? Because they are sidestepping that protective exterior of your child that might trigger you, and you're speaking to the inner child. There's this common theme I see with alienated kids and with myself back then too, where you flip between rage and softness. So you might have a message like, I hate you, I never want to see you again. A few hours or days later, I love you, I'm sorry I said that. It can be confusing. It's like a whirlwind. And yes, your child is also experiencing emotional turmoil, emotional whirlwind. These confusing back and forth messages are just a sign of how much pain your child is in. In the example, when they say, F you, and then maybe a few hours later, I'm sorry I said that, I was just angry. How do you respond? How do you respond to the child who's flip-flopping from anger to softness? You respond with your steady, unconditional love and gentle, inviting presence. You respond as the regulated adult they need you to be. So when they respond with these back and forth messages, you could simply say, thank you for telling me how you're feeling. I love you and I'm not going anywhere. Or you could even say, I appreciate you sharing your emotions with me, even when it's hard. I will always be there for you. Why does this work? Because your child sometimes might be testing you. When they lash out at you, I hate you, F you, and then I'm sorry, I was angry, that tells you that they, number one, confused. Number two, they might be testing you a little bit. They want to see if they can push you away. It doesn't make sense, but you need to reaffirm to them that you're not going anywhere. They need proof of your unconditional love. And when they lash out at you, and then if you do get an apology, I think that's a very good sign, actually, that they love you and they just want you to prove to them that you're not going anywhere. Because deep down, they know that their other parent, it's not true unconditional love. They know that relationship is hinging on so many different factors, on how they behave, on what they say, on if they perform right, on whatever it might be. And they so desperately want a parent to be calm, grounded, steady, someone to rely on. They need a rock in their life. Okay, another example of a common thing that alienated kids will text or email their targeted parent would be reaching out with requests. This is a tricky topic. I've seen a lot of discussion about this on Reddit, on different Facebook groups. What do I do when my kid responds requesting me to do an errand for them, requesting for me to pay for something for them? Do you continue to financially support a child who is treating you so terribly? It's your decision. You're their parent, obviously. But this is just my advice. Having been in that position, how did my dad respond? He actually went above and beyond to fulfill any requests that I had throughout the years, even when I wasn't going with him, even when I was rejecting him. I appreciated it then, and I appreciate it so much more now. In the time, if I did make a small request, or if I had something that I needed help paying for, and I asked my dad to help me, he never held it over my head. He simply did it. And when he would fulfill those financial requests or whatever it may have been, that really did soften my heart towards him. It made me question, okay, if he's willing to do this, then it doesn't add up with the guy I've been made to believe. It did crack through that cold-hearted exterior, at least a little bit. Whether or not you want to continue to financially support your child in different ways, or whether you want to fulfill any requests they have, here's a simple response that might work in this scenario. Say they reach out to you and they're requesting that you help pay for their wedding, for example. Just to give a random example. Your initial response might be, hell no, I'm not paying for your wedding. You haven't come with me in years. I haven't talked to you, haven't had a good relationship with you for years. You treat me so poorly. Why would you expect me to pay for your wedding? Now, you can respond this way. You can do whatever you want to do. But if you respond this way, I guarantee you it's going to push your child so much further away. If your end goal is a relationship with your child, if your end goal is to draw them back into your life, then it's important to respond in a way that is grounded and emotionally validating. For instance, you could say, I would love to help you out with your wedding. Thank you for asking me. That means a lot. Let's figure out a way that feels comfortable for you. Final thought on this, and I know it's probably controversial for people, is that your child is not using you for money, even if that's how it feels. To say no to a financial request makes sense in a lot of contexts. However, for the child who's being psychologically abused to reject you, financial cutoffs enforce the alienation. Simple as that. Even if you don't like that fact, it is what it is. No matter what they say, I think a good message of love for any of these situations would just be to say, no matter what happens, you will always be my child, and I will always love you and be here for you. Simple as that. Here's some final tips. When communicating with your child, you want to mirror back the emotion, not the accusation. Instead of saying, I didn't do that, you can say, I can see that you're very angry. Also, keep the door open. Maybe they're not ready yet to do that thing or to reach back out, but maybe they will be ready in the future. You can simply say, I'm always here when you're ready. Another tip is to stay warm, but not overbearing. If you start sending them tons of texts every day, or if you start sending them long paragraphs in your emails, This might add pressure to the pressure they're already experiencing behind closed doors. It might feel like they're suffocating and they might pull away even more. So don't be too overbearing. Consistency is more important than the volume of messages you're sending. If your child reacts explosively to "I love you," that term specifically, you don't need to say it all the time. Alternatives are "I care about you" or "I'm here. I'm always here." A final tip. Like I said before, if you feel dysregulated, you need to wait. You need to put your phone down, step away from the computer before crafting that message. At the same time, if you sense that your child is feeling dysregulated, it's also a good decision to wait before responding, to ground yourself in a warm, calm tone. Give it a little time before responding to that text. If you've watched this far into the video, I just want to say thank you. Please don't give up on communicating with your child, even if they don't respond to your messages, even if they respond angrily or in a way that you're upset with. Please keep sending those messages. Thank you for watching this video, and if you found it insightful or helpful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and smash the subscribe button to my channel. Turn on the bell notification as well. And if you're a parent going through this, leave in the comments, do these messages resonate with you? What are some of the texts that you've sent that have been able to break through to that inner child beneath their cold-hearted exterior? And if you're a kid who's been through this, who's been through alienation, what messages made a difference in your life from your parent when you were going through that mind control? Were there any emails, texts, or other messages that really made a difference? I'd love to hear from your experience down below, and I will see you in the next video.